All right, welcome to Bonneville Automotive. Today we're going to talk about taps and dies regards to our small vehicle class. So let's go ahead and look at what a tap is and what a die is. Those items are used to cut threads. So let's start with the tap. Okay. So here, let me go ahead and switch to our close camera. Here is a tap. This tap is used to cut threads inside an item. So, like we have a block here, I would be able to cut the threads, say for this hole. Okay? So that's what a tap does, is it cuts holes internally. Now, for a die cuts external threads. So the external threads. So on a bolt, if you need to chase the bolt and clean out the threads, you would use a die. And on both of those, they have tools to help hold them. It's quite difficult to hold a tap or die. So we have tap handles that you would unthread one side, and then you can place the tap inside here, and then pinch it. And then this way you can now tap the item that needs to be cut for new threads. They also have a fancier version, which is just a ratchet style. You can hear the ratcheting on it. This way you can adjust it, and then you can also back it out. So this is a ratcheting tab holder. Now for dies, this is an oversized one that matches this die. This is a die holder. This is a round die, and it has these holders here. You would drop the die in. Most dies are directional, meaning that they have a more open side to cut the threads in. So we would place this in here, and then you can tighten down these holders to lock the die in place to cut the threads. Okay? So let's go ahead and take an example of cutting threads. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to do two steps in one, so that way you can see it. So what happened is this engine, the threads on this hole here are bad. Somebody cross-threaded, so when they put the bolt in, it went crooked. So I need to replace the threads. There's an item called a Helix Coil. And what it is, it's known as a thread insert. Okay? So we would insert this into the threads. To get this to work, we have to cut new threads into that hole. So we're going to drill out the old hole with a drill bit, and then we're going to place in this helix, so that way we are ready to install. So let's go ahead and go to that point. So what are the tools that we need? Well, we need the proper tap that is needed. Now there's this one right here. This is a Helix Tap, so it is the tap for this helix to go in. Okay, we'll need a tap handle. We'll need a drill bit. Now, what drill bit do you need? Well, thankfully, the Tappet has that written on there. This camera won't focus on the writing, but that is what's written in here. So it tells me I need a 1/4-inch drill bit. So here, I have a 1/4-inch drill bit. I have a drill. Okay. I have safety glasses. And then we have some thread cutting oil. So those are the tools that we'll need, as well as the helix and the installation tool. And we'll talk about that when we get ready to install it. Let's go ahead and get our safety glasses on and proceed with the instructions on how to properly repair that hole. Oops. The hole that we need, this one right here, that it won't rock on us and make all this random movements. Okay, so we're going to set that like that. Go. That way we can watch. Let's go ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead and drill that out. Let's install our drill bit into the drill. Okay, now I'm going to put just a drop of oil on there, on here, on the drill bit itself. And then the trick is I got to go perfectly straight, because if I cut crooked, it will then drill out differently. So I'm going to go as straight as possible. So the idea is you look in one direction, and then you look in the other direction. Okay, so we've now cleared out the hole of all the bad threads. I'm going to go ahead. What's nice is this being a block that I could pick up, I could tip it over and remove the threads shavings that came off. Okay, now I'm going to use a rag, wipe out the last of it. Clean that out. Okay, and what's nice is this is just a simple blind hole. It does not go all the way through. So here we go. So there's our hole that we're going to now tap. So I'm going to install this on the tap handle. Actually, let's see if it will fit into the ratchet pipe. Okay, I got it in there. I'm going to tighten it and then back off, tighten it and back off. I'm going to put some cutting oil on here, more cutting oil on here. This time I'm going a little bit more than I would have used on the drill bit. Now this being aluminum, it's a lot easier, but when you go to do a steel head, the same thing, I want to make sure that this is perfectly straight with the hole. This way, and then this way. So I'm going to keep spinning it. This is probably the hardest part, is starting the tap or even the die. There we go. So now I've cut a couple threads, and I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple more. Right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in reverse. Once I've cut a couple threads, I want to de-cut, because what will happen is it'll break the chips off that are coming off of this cutting thread. So let's go ahead and back up. See, there, now cut those off. I'm going to go forward again. 1, 2, and then backwards by 1. Forward by 2. 1, 2. Back by 1. Forward by 2. 1, 2. And I'm going to repeat that. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and I've cut enough threads that I meet the depth that I need. I'll go ahead and remove the tap, being careful here at the edge. Okay, and this is where I'm going to tip it over, and also I'm going to go and use the air gun and remove any of the threads on it. Okay, now it's all blown out and ready to go for the next step, which is installing the Helix. So on the Helix tool, this threaded rod, which would receive this item here, the bottom of this Helix has a little rod right there. This screw here has a clip on the end. You can barely see that little edge right there. So what we're going to do is okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and install our threads, threaded insert. So I'm going to just go ahead and use this other tap handle. Put that on there tight. Thread this on here. Right now it grabs. Now I can go ahead and thread it into that hole. And I tapped. You want to go about 1/4 of an inch below the surface. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and back that out. Try not to drop it. Okay. Now what I need to do is I got to remove that little tab right there, because then the bolt won't only sit down. What you're going to do is you can use a punch, a rod, anything that's small enough to be able to push down on that tab. There, the little tab that we use to insert this. We have to remove that. So we're just going to use a simple rod. This one happens to be an Allen wrench. That will work just fine right there. And then use a hammer and breaks off real quick, just like that. Now we don't want to leave that in there, and thankfully this is just a dead end hole, so I'm going to go ahead and just tip it over and then tap, see if it pops out, which it just fell out. There it is on the floor, and we have now completed that thread repair, and this is the bolt that would go in there. And so now I can thread that bolt in nice and smooth. So I have completed a thread repair. See, this one has the other good thread. There we go. Now you have completed a simple thread repair. You learned about your taps and dies. So thank you for joining me today. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to you at our next lesson. Thank you.